There is power in your story. Write and publish in 90 days. It's time to thrive and achieve it.
Thank you for tuning in. A live stream new episode of the Stephanie M. Seaton Sunday Show will be starting soon. With your host, minister, and author Stephanie M. Seaton. If you would like to be a guest on the Stephanie M. Seaton Sunday Show, email Stephanie at stephaniemseatontheauthor@gmail.com.
Well, hello, and welcome to another special edition of the Stephanie M. Seaton Sunday Show. I am so happy that you have tuned in with us tonight. Tonight is a very special day because I have my friend here, and today is the launch of his new book. So listen, let me welcome Joseph B. Roberts. Welcome.
All right. Thank you.
So
Thank
we're actually, it's not really a welcome because you've been here before. So
Yeah.
we're pretty much having Joseph back again to talk about his brand new book. It's a revamp. And listen, he has added so much content to it that it really does seem like a new book. It's a brand new cover. Brand new additions that have been added in this. I mean, I told him just a couple of days ago, like this look, the whole look, it just fits him. It just goes with him. And so very proud of you, Mr. Joseph. How does it feel today? Is the new book released? How does it feel today?
Oh, it's really just been just mind blowing and exciting. I mean, there's just something about being in a position to write your book, and even though this is my second go around with it, it still gives you that newness feeling, if you will, the reality of holding the book in your hand, seeing your name on it, knowing all of the steps behind the scenes that people don't oftentimes get to see in the bookmaking process of what you go through, the
Right.
rewrites, the edits, and all of those things, and, in the back and forth, just trying to make it be the visioned product that you desired for it to be. And so it's that labor of love that you go through, but in the end,
Yeah.
it's just a feeling of excitement to finally have it out there. And then from there, you're just now praying that that people will not only go out and get it, but that once those who do, that it'll actually have the impact that you desired for it to have, that it reaches people in the way that you wanted them to be reached. So that's where I'm
Definitely.
at right now.
Definitely. And you released this book, what, 3 years ago on this
Yes,
exact date?
yes, the original book, Blessings in the Streets, my very first book, was released exactly 3 years ago to this date.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so this is the original one. The original
Yes.
one. Yeah. So and now we got the sequel, if you will, but this again, special edition version. And
Special edition. Yes.
yes,
Special
yes.
edition. More content, more heart, special QR codes that take you to some hidden treats in there, a couple of pictures. Listen, this book right here. This was one of the probably the and let me say this carefully because I've had a lot of clients. Let me say this carefully. This book had a lot of passion because it wasn't just the text of the story, but the QR codes going to links that give you more content, more background, leading to the podcast, which he has a podcast as well called Blessings in the Streets. And so Joseph really he had a lot of insight in how he wanted this project to be portrayed. And of course, as his publisher, I made that happen for him. And listen, at one point, he was so passionate. What I say, Joseph, I said, no more. I said, no more, Joseph. But listen, this is a book that you definitely have to go out and purchase. Blessings in the Street Special Edition, when God leverages our valley experiences. This book is available on all major platforms. You can Google it. Again, it's available in ebook, in paperback, and hardcover. It is a very good read. There are some stories in here about Joseph's life, growing up with him, his mom, friends, and family. And some of them, as we were going through the process of preparing the book, I literally just had to reach out and text him or message him and just comment on what I was reading. What? Tell the viewers, Joseph, about your mom going to the college, but not as your mom, but as your lawyer.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, what Stephanie's referring to is there's a story in the book that I share in regards to when I was getting ready to apply for graduate school.
Yeah.
And and I had some challenges in that when I had my interview, and it didn't go quite the way I had thought it would go. And my mom, being who she was, being very protective of me,
Yeah.
she wasn't ready to let that ride. And
Yeah.
so she encouraged me to push the matter further, and I ended up getting an interview scheduled with the dean of the school at the time, and my mom wanted to be there for me, but she chose in this particular scenario that instead
Yeah.
of being there as my parent representative, she
Yeah.
basically, like you said, pretended to be my attorney.
Yeah.
I had the look, had the lingo, the whole 9 yards, and I'm just trying to keep a straight face throughout, knowing what the reality is and looking at the facial expressions of those in the room. And it was
Yeah.
just she played the role to a T, even though my mother has never spent one day in anybody's law school. But
Yeah.
she should definitely got an award for that. So it's a very interesting story, and I won't give too
Yeah.
much away of it, but you'll
No,
kind of
no,
get the gist of it. But yeah, it was that was definitely one of those memorable stories that, as I was
Yeah.
preparing the book, that I wanted to make sure that was included, because it was just another example of one on my mom's end being supportive of me and wanting the best for me, but then on the other side of it, just showing you how God can move in situations where
Yeah.
it would have been very easy to just give up and let it ride and just be done with it. And just like you and I were talking about earlier about how
Yeah.
kind of God kind of nudges you and just says, no, you're not thinking big enough. You're not.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to look beyond what your fears or what your limitations are, and
Yeah.
treat me as the big God that I am, the big
The
G,
big,
not the little G.
big
So
vision, big God. Yeah.
yeah. So
And you know what? I gave a testimony a while back. I think I shared this with you. I know I shared it on the podcast, but I think I told you about this, Joseph. Did I tell you about the lemonade at the Golden Chick? Did I tell you about how I sat in the parking lot and ate my food and drank my lemonade, and I wanted another lemonade, but because I didn't eat my food on the inside, I wasn't sure if I could get another lemonade because I was sitting in the parking lot. But then I just decided, let me take a chance. So I go to the drive-through window and I'm like, ma'am, can I have a refill on my lemonade? Just prepared for whatever she said, because I didn't go inside. I ate in the parking lot. And she looked at me. She said, what were you drinking? And I said the cherry lemonade. And it was raspberry lemonade. And she goes, okay, just a moment. She closes the window, opens the window back immediately, and hands me a raspberry lemonade. It was sitting there, already made in the size that I had. And had I just drove off and thought they're not going to give it to me. And as I was driving out, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, that's how it is with our blessings.
Yeah.
He has our blessings already ready for us, prepared for us. But because we don't ask for them or we don't go the extra mile, we miss out. So I thought about the raspberry lemonade as you were saying that. Your mom, she was like, no, wait a minute, it's on the table. We're gonna make this happen. And so yeah, I just thought about that. But amazing read. Again, you have to go and check it out. ebook, paperback, as well as hardcover. Tell us a little bit about what life was like growing up, Joseph, because a lot of your life events are kind of in the book. So just kind of lay out the passion behind the book. And I know you dedicated the book to your mom. So kind
Yes.
of tell us a little bit about that.
As far as life growing up, of course, I'm originally from Chicago, South Side, and I grew up in a home with single parent. It was my mom raising me, and also my grandmother lived in the home with us as well. So, um, typical working class neighborhood. We didn't have a lot, and coming up at the time that I did, it was in that season of time where kids back in the day, if you didn't have a lot, if you were broke, you didn't really know that you were. Because you
That's
had
true.
you had the household setting as well as just the neighborhood community that just sort of just kind of came together in an extended type of way. And so,
Mhm.
the little things meant a lot to you. You didn't have to have the fancies and the luxuries of life to enjoy life. So, I'm from that era who kids who went outside and played and you know and you know
Yeah.
and we would have gone crazy being stuck up in the house, and again, my grandmother was, very loving. I had a very close relationship with her as well. And it was just a good, wholesome type of family environment with the little bit that we had. We made the best of it. We still sat at the table to have dinner together. We still had the Sunday dinners, playing games with my grandmother after school or watching baseball games on TV when I get home from school. And I talk a little bit about that in the book about, my grandmother, we used to, as we played like little board games, we had a little jar of pennies that we played with to gamble with, if you will, just in fun.
Yeah.
And then of course, obviously education was always a big deal, because at that time, especially early on in my life, my mom was teaching. And so, she didn't mess around with school. I was that kid. I did my homework early on. It had to be left out on the table for her to look at, to not only make sure it was correct, but then also make sure that it was done neatly.
Right.
You had chores, you had responsibilities, and then of course there's church. So Sunday mornings was not an option for me to say whether or not I felt like going or not.
Mm,
You're going
yeah.
to go to church, and you're going to look the part when you go to church. It wasn't as casual as it is, these
Yeah.
days. You put on your Sunday best,
Yeah.
and you went to church and you were paying attention. There was no video games to play on or cell phones to play with. it was
Yeah.
it was an active thing. So just my mom, again, being a single mother, as we hear about what that experience is like for many single moms, the financial challenges of it, and then of course, if you're a single mom trying to raise a son, trying to take on that double duty of making sure that he's guided the right way, and
Right.
and staying out of harm's way without at the same time trying to strike that balance where you're not babying him, but you're also trying to be
Yeah.
protective of him.
Yeah.
So just watching her navigate through that and sacrifice and those things, it just kind of gave me an appreciation for who she was, and just her love for me. And and we just were it's super close, just throughout that time frame. So it was a great
Mhm.
childhood, friends in the neighborhood, just just doing life, just being a kid and just enjoying life, but at the same time, keeping in front of me what was important, the things
Right.
that mattered, making sure that I'm setting myself up in such a way that
Yeah.
once I reached adulthood, I would have options in life, that I would, be able to go off and get my education, get that college degree, to be able to be marketable, to get a job someday, and
Right.
and be able to have a family of my own and all of those things. So mom was really good about trying to make that happen. And like I said, there's a host of adventures in between, many of those things that I
Mhm.
share in the book.
Right.
Just the wild, fun times that we had together, and it's just special. So with the whole blessings in the street concept, I mean, that was something that my mother, would coin later in life, but
Yeah.
really we experienced that even through my childhood, just not knowing at the time that that's what it was. But that's
Yeah.
exactly the way God just moved in our circumstances and situations. We just blessed beyond our wildest imaginations, and sometimes telling the stories, even for those of you who get a chance to read the book, sometimes you might have to pause for a moment, like, Is this really happened? And I'm here to tell you, yes, it
Right.
really happened.
Right.
Like I said, nothing's been fabricated. You know, some of those stories that sound unbelievable, they very
Real.
much did happen, but that's how God moves. You know, he
Mhm.
intentionally, when he blesses, he tries to make sure that he blesses in a way where you're not going to be confused about who did this. You won't be able to take credit for it. You won't pass it
Yeah.
off as luck or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's clearly at the forefront of this. He made it happen. And
Yeah.
you know, over time, you begin to appreciate that more and more as the testimonies and the victories begin to pile up, and you say, okay, yes, yes, this is why it's so important for me to not only recognize God for who He is, but
Right.
to be in relationship with Him and understanding the power behind that, and just His covering and His love for us unconditionally. Just you know, getting us through, especially getting us through those difficult times in life. So.
You said a word that I love, in relationship with him. That, I'm all relationship over religion.
Hmm.
Relationship is
Yeah.
everything. Um, Again, I cannot express how good of a read this is, and I'm not just saying that. Like, seriously, there are so many stories that you'll be able to relate to. I mean, it's just, and I hate to, to put it there, but culturally, there's so many things in there that you're going to be like, you can visualize it as you're
Hmm.
reading, or it actually happened to you and to your
Hmm.
family. And so, definitely get your copy of the book, Author Joseph B. Roberts. You have to get a copy, okay? Um, so kind of take us a little bit. I know that you lived a life of faith. You still live a life of faith, which is a really big part of even the title and concept of the book.
Hmm.
Um, how do you think your book can inspire somebody that's maybe not on that faith walk yet? Like, by reading your book, what will it do for them?
Well, I think what you just spoke to just a moment ago about the relatability.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, it was one of those things that as I was writing this book, I didn't want to make it. How should I say? I didn't want to make it churchy,
Right.
but at the same time, I just wanted to. I wanted to actually lay things out in the way that I think God wants to have us have conversations with Him. He just wants just save all of the superficial, fancy words
Mhm.
and just talk to me from child to parent.
Yeah.
Lay it all out there, and so as you read my book, you read the stories, understanding, how God moved in my mother's life, how God moved in my life as well. I think what it does for that reader is
Hmm.
it gives you that understanding and that reassurance that, you know what, we all go through stuff.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not just you,
Yeah.
it's not just me.
Yeah.
Sometimes the stuff that we go through, sometimes those storms are heavy, and
Mhm.
sometimes they're just, what we might call annoyances or inconveniences, if you will. But nevertheless, we have these storms, but even in the midst of these storms, even in the most intense moments, it doesn't mean that everything is done and over with just because you've hit a brick wall, just because you've found yourself facing a situation that on the surface appears to be insurmountable.
Right.
The book reminds you that, hey, um what you thought you couldn't overcome, it was all
Yeah.
about you stopping yourself from just trying to rely upon you alone, understanding your
Right.
limitations, that
Yeah.
there's some storms, there's some burdens that come our way that are just simply too heavy for us, and that's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
It's okay. So what you have to learn to do is, okay, well, what do I do with that? And that's where
Yeah.
that relationship with God comes in, because now I can take that situation and
Yeah.
hand it off to Him, and He's openly willing to receive it from us, and
Yeah.
and help you navigate through it. And it took me a long time to fully embrace the lesson, but it's just understanding, that even your mindset about storms, that
Right.
you learn to stop looking at them as negative events, and
Hmm.
instead looking at them as growth and developmental opportunities.
I love that. Yeah.
That He's using, if that storm, first of all, that storm has to have permission to even come your way. So if He loves you
Yeah.
like He does, and He's allowed it to come down your street, then you have to understand that it's either there to be a blessing to you or to equip you to be a blessing to someone else. There's something that you're going to grasp from that. There's
Yeah.
something that is bigger than the moment.
Oh
And
yeah.
so
Much
that's where you have to stop. That's where you start to learn, stop making it about you. Stop making it your own personal pity
bigger.
party, woe is me type of thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't have your moment, whether it's that
Right.
moment is to shed some tears, whether that moment is to scream out loud.
Yeah.
let that out, because that's healthy to release that. You just don't want to
Yeah.
stay stuck in that
Yeah.
position.
Can't
You don't
live in
want
it.
to you don't want to live in that. You don't want to, once you get it out,
Yeah.
now because what that purging of it does for you is it allows you to now have a clear and open mind. Now I can hear from him. I can hear
Yeah.
from God. I can receive what he has to say. Because if I'm still all emotional and all over the place, I'm not going to hear anything. I'm not going to receive anything. So you need that purging moment. Just don't stay stuck there. And so I think the
Yeah.
book does a really good job at kind of walking you through that as you look at the different experiences, the different journeys, the different, uphill battles. You see how God moves, and just the way that you respond to it, that growth, that maturity. You see that in my mom, you see that in myself. It
Mhm.
was a thing. I'm not going to sit and tell you that we just came out of the womb and had it all figured out and had it
Yeah.
right and we was all holy and perfect from. No, we weren't. We
No,
made a lot of mistakes.
that's right.
You know, did a lot of things that you in retrospect you say, I probably could have approached that differently.
Yeah.
But even to
Yeah.
that, it just reminds you that we serve a forgiving God, a loving God that doesn't mind that you
Yeah.
stumbled. Okay, let's get back up. Let me dust you off and let's go at this again until we get it right. So it really journeys you through all of that and does it in a way where, as you shared, there's some moments where you're gonna laugh. There's some
Glad.
moments where you're gonna kind of
Mhm.
think back and kind of reflect, like, that's something to ponder on.
Yeah.
And then there's gonna be some that might pull at your heartstrings a little bit on some of the stories. So it
Yeah.
gives you a wide range of emotions. I take you all over and
Yeah.
get that emotional path, but in the end, it brings you back to him.
That's right.
He's the foundational basis of the book. The reason why ultimately the book is, I see value in it because it glorifies him. It's almost like, in many ways, the book, and even with my podcast as well, it's like another alternative way to evangelize to people.
Not
Um,
like it
yeah.
is.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because we oftentimes think of the traditional evangelizing
Yeah.
just meaning that I'm going door to door, knocking, or
Right.
I'm standing out on a corner handing
Yeah.
out tracts. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's so
Yeah.
many different other outlets that we can use to
Yeah.
do that. And that was something that I also, that I always wanted to have, because you just kind of have to know your personality and the
Yeah.
way you operate. And so, it's one of those things, well, God used me in a way that aligns with who I am, where it
Yeah.
comes off naturally for
Mhm.
me, but I'm
Yeah.
still praising you. I'm still sharing you with other people through the telling of my stories. So it's kind of a best of both worlds, so to speak. So
I totally get that, and you are ministering through your books and your podcast, and that's pretty much the same vein that I'm in as well, with my podcast and with my books. And that's the thing, the Bible says, "Work as unto the Lord." That's whatever work you're doing.
mhm.
Even when I'm in my dental field, during the day, I'm still talking to people about dental treatment, but I always put Jesus in there.
Mhm.
Before it's over, we're going to talk about Jesus, especially if they look down when I start talking about the dental treatment and the financial aspect. Listen, I throw Jesus in there real quick. How
Mhm.
are you? What's going on? And a lot of times, even in the dental field, I end up praying with patients and talking to them. So, the same way, with our podcast, with our books, with our whatever we're doing, we definitely want to always be, because it's a lifestyle. It's not just, it's not something we just put on,
Yes.
this is your lifestyle. So no matter where you are, we're representing Christ, and we definitely want to be able to, inspire and reach other people. And so I think you're doing an amazing job by doing that. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast. So, what season are you in your podcast?
I am about to begin season 3 of the podcast. It'll
Okay.
officially kick off on February the 1st.
Okay.
And so we've had 2 phenomenal seasons. And it's just even that experience is again another testament to how God can take a concept and blow it up into something that you just didn't see coming. Because
Yeah.
as I've shared before with other individuals who asked me about the podcast, I mean, we're talking about a podcast that's only been in existence for just a little bit over a year and a half, first of all, and we're entering into season 3, a podcast that, between the first 2 seasons combined, I have 166 episodes.
Mhm.
And I just still remember the first time that it was placed on my heart to even do the podcast.
Yeah.
And all I was starting off with, I again had a friend, and I share a little bit about this even in the book. She kind of
Yeah.
telling you on that, taking you on that journey, but just starting off with nothing more than my laptop and the headphones and the microphone that you see me with now, and not having a clue really much about how podcasts are supposed to work, and just writing up my list of potential people to ask to be on, and just watching God take a list that I underestimated. That
Yeah.
it's almost like the story of the fish and the loaves. Like, how am I going to
Yeah.
feed all these people with just this little bit? And I'm thinking to
Right.
myself, here I made this big old list, and there's no way all of these people, or a substantial amount of these people, are going to say yes. But then God blows my mind and knocks more than 95% of that first list, and they all say, yeah, I want to be on this. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So then here I am going through that process, and
Yeah.
you've been on my show before, just asking the questions that I ask, and people feeling comfortable and led to share as openly as they have been,
Mhm.
without me having to coax it or to
Yeah.
push it. Like, it's naturally just flowing from them,
Yeah.
and then so to have that first season, and then to come back again for another one, it's almost like, are you going to have that sophomore jinx, so to speak, and you do the big list again, and then you get a even a higher response than the last time, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, and so you
Yeah.
fast forward, and then here we now are embarking on season 3, and what's been different about this season, of course, is after it's just like with any product or service that you have, you
Yeah.
initially kind of go through the people that you know the most, and
Right.
so, but the further along that you get, you start embarking on people that you've never encountered or met before.
Right.
But even to that, as I've made those brand new fresh connections, a lot of people that you're going to see on season 3 are relatively new connections, but they embraced right away, yes, I want to
Yeah.
be a part of it, and not just because they just want to be shown on on a platform, like they're genuinely thankful that you even asked them, and that's
Yeah.
that's been a blessing too, because there's some people who've been eager to share their stories,
Mhm.
but they just have never had a platform
To share.
presented to them to
Yeah.
share, where they felt welcomed, where their
Mhm.
story was desired to be heard, and
Yeah.
they felt like they were entering into a safe space where they could do it without the judgment, without the
Right.
ridicule, and it's just been a blessing. And as I tell all my guests, it's like, yeah, I'm being blessed when I hear these. It's reinforcement. It's therapeutic for me, even as the host, because every time I hear the overcoming of a situation, even if it's something that I've never personally dealt with, it's
Mhm.
just the way that God moved in that situation, and to watch it happen,
Right.
unfold in front of me, and hear those stories. When in some of those days when I'm recording, and people don't even know that I'm having one of them down days, and their story has encouraged me,
Yeah.
just I speak about that quite a bit, and I'm sure you, being the type of person that you are, you can relate to this. It's like,
Yeah.
every now and then the encourager needs to be encouraged,
Oh,
so it's a
say that again.
yeah, the
Say it again.
encourager needs to be encouraged, and that's a tough predicament situation to be in, when you
Yeah.
are normally the encourager, when you're normally the one who's praying for other people, when you're normally the one who's coming alongside for other people. What happens when you need to be
Crazy.
covered, when you need to
Yeah.
be encouraged? When Who do you
Yeah.
go to?
Yeah.
And having to always put on the tough face for everybody else, because you don't want to let other people down, because they depend on you. Well, who do I depend on when I need it?
Yeah.
But so it's been an awesome experience. I would have never be in a podcast or even being an author. Neither one of those things were ever on my bucket list of things to do.
Yeah.
But yet God has revealed that to me, as far as a part of walking in my purpose. And that's just the transition that I'm in right now, is just really been exploring that. I mean, the books and podcasts is just, as far as I'm concerned, that's just scratching the surface. I still
Yeah.
believe that there's more,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm more open to receiving it, because as you, like I said, as you get older and you've been doing life, and it's kind of like, it's cool that you had the careers that you and I both have had, long careers in our respective fields, but then at some point you recognize this void that's there, there's something that's missing, that the job and the
Yeah.
paycheck just can't fill.
Yeah.
And that's when, through that relationship with God, and when he sees that you're clear-minded and listening, then that's when he can open up to you. This is what you're looking for. There's a difference between the work, the job, and there's and your actual purpose, what you
Yeah.
were actually created to do. And,
Yeah.
and so don't be surprised, to anybody that's listening, don't be surprised that if it's a complete opposite to what
Yeah.
you've been doing. Because it really can be kind of a two-way thing, where it can be a complete opposite, but at the same time, many of the skills that you'll need to be successful in that walking of your purpose are things that you've already been doing it. You've already
Yeah.
been doing. You just were doing it for the world and not for God. And now
Yeah.
he's giving you a pathway open for you to now do it more in alignment with the advancement of his agenda
Yeah.
rather than the agendas of others. So
I call it my passion. I'm in my passion stage.
mhm.
Like you said, I've been in my career almost 20 years, and this year I think makes 19 years. And I'm just, I've taken all the classes, I've gotten all the certifications, I've gotten the licenses with the state. Like, I've done all of that, and it's steady. Don't get me wrong. I praise God. Thank you. Hallelujah. But as I'm looking ahead, I'm like, the next 20 years, I want to do something that I love, that I enjoy, something that brings God glory, because that's what makes me happy, my passion, right? And
Mhm.
so I think I'm not sure if I've shared this before, but when I was in middle school and high school, I used to write songs and I used to write poetry. And then life happened and I just put the pen down. I never looked back. But think about it now, from the time I was in middle school, we're talking 12, 13, 14 years old, to now I'm 49. And so I was 47 a couple years ago when I started writing. It took all those years in between, literally, of lifing and happening,
Mhm.
before I went back to that passion that I had in middle school and high school. But
Yeah.
look at God, look how faithful he is, that he brought it back around. And when he brought it back around, he didn't just bring it back around for me to just write in my journal. He got me writing and publishing books, and I'm on all these platforms and doing this stuff. And I'm just like, so even to myself, I think to myself, I'm still Stephanie Seaton in my head.
Right.
In my head, I'm not author, minister, podcast. I'm not all the titles in my head. In my head, I'm just Stephanie from Chapel Hill. Okay.
And
um,
it's interesting that you say that, and I'm
yeah,
interrupt you, because what it brings to mind is I have a few individuals in my life who have been familiar with my journey with the writing and the podcast, and they have fussed at me on a couple of occasions, to the very point that you just spoke about
yeah,
how I'm just Joe. This
yeah.
podcast is just something that I just was doing. This book is
Hmm.
just something that just came
Yeah.
to me, like, and they're like, stop minimizing the work and stop
Hmm.
minimizing you. You have
Yeah.
no idea
Yeah.
what your
That's what I
impact
had to
is.
do.
You don't even see
Yeah.
you don't even get it. And we're trying to tell you, you need to get this. Quit thinking.
Yeah.
When you and I were having this conversation earlier, quit thinking small.
You
This
got to
is
think
way
big.
bigger than what you realize that this is. And
Yeah.
until you understand that, only then will you fully experience what we're talking about here. This
Yeah.
is stop minimizing what God is doing in you. This is not to be taken lightly.
Yeah.
This, not only is it a great work, but your impact, your reach is huge. And I've learned to embrace that more and more. I'm still working on that. I'm
Yeah. I'm
embracing
getting
more
there.
and more
I'm
to the
getting there.
point. Even when
Yeah.
you do broadcasts like this, whether you're doing live streams or whether you're, posting on your various social media platforms, I had to learn, for example, to get away from counting the likes and the
Yeah.
comments. Sometimes if you get caught up into that, you'll get discouraged if you don't see the numbers be high. But the
Hmm.
reality is, one, if
Hmm.
if 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 it's not but one person who commented or one person is
That's
like,
right.
you already the
Yeah.
victory is already there if you reach one.
Yeah.
And then secondly, reality is more people are paying attention to you that than reveal themselves that they're paying attention to you. And so,
Yeah.
I've learned that, and that's where that consistency piece comes in. Like, you have to
Yeah.
keep doing it. And just even when I just something simple as posting something inspirational, it always blows me away when God will remind me of that very thing that I'm speaking to of here, when I see that person who never likes, who never comments, all of a sudden today they decide to do it. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking they didn't just catch that just by chance. I
Yeah.
know that we've been friends on social media all this time, and you
Yeah.
pick today to that means they're paying attention to
They've
you,
been
but
watching
that
all along.
consistency,
Yeah.
you keep pouring into them, keep pouring in,
Yeah.
keep pouring in, and it
Yeah.
allows a person to get open to, opens them up enough to want to
Yeah.
respond, to acknowledge, yes, you said something. Yes,
Yeah.
that meant something to me. I resonate with that. I connect with
Yeah.
that. And so, God doesn't always put on display, and he doesn't need to put on
No.
display to you all your cheerleaders and all your
Yeah.
fans and all
Yeah.
that. That's not important. And you don't want
Yeah.
to, as the deliverer of those messages, you don't want to get caught up in that. Just
No.
if you know that the work is good that you're
Mhm.
doing,
Yeah.
then it's going to reach who it needs to be reached, whether they acknowledge you or
Yeah.
don't acknowledge you. You got to keep doing it, stay
Yeah.
consistent with it, and just let God use you accordingly. So
Yeah. That's the thing about the Lord and how awesome and how amazing he is. When we feel like when we don't get who we are in his anointing, he will send people to remind you, to kind of help be your cheerleader, to boost you on, so that you can begin to walk like you need to walk, meaning holding your shoulders up, chin up instead of head down, like, well, no, the Lord will bring people into your life to affirm and confirm who you actually are in the spirit. I remember in some earlier events that I would go to, and there would, maybe be 10, 12 people in the room. And I was like, in my flesh, I felt a certain way, Joseph. I was like, oh my God, all that we have done to put this event on, and there's only 10, 12 people here.
Right.
But I tell you what would happen. By the end of the event, the Lord would send one or two people to me to start talking to me. They would either have read one of my books or read a caption from the book, heard about something that I had been through, and start telling me their whole life story. And before I know it, I'm praying for them. I'm laying hands on them. I'm going to sign books at a book author event, and I found myself ministering. And so what the Lord was showing me is, it's not about the number. Like you just said, it's not about the number. He's going to always put the right people in the room. He's going to make the right people be able to watch the podcast, to be able to read the book or whatever it is. And the thing that we have to do is just keep our eyes focused on him, listening to what he tells us to do, and then we'll be able to reach those target people. I do want to acknowledge some people. We definitely have some people watching tonight. Got a couple of my close friends watching tonight. I want to acknowledge Elena. Thank you for tuning in tonight, Elena. Thank you for tuning in, Miss April Showers, Miss Di Jones. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello, Miss Casey. Hello, Miss Tanisha. We have several people tuned in tonight. So let me read this comment. April Showers, also known as Di Jones, said, I agree, Stephanie, doing something that brings joy. It reflects God goodness. He made you, and yes, full circle, he does just that. And so beautiful comments. Thank you guys for tuning in. Continue to watch, like, tag, and share. We are talking tonight to author Joseph B. Roberts. She said, minimizing self. Wow, that's a blessing. Yeah, so many times we do that, but we have to start looking at ourselves like Christ sees us. And it says, yes, unmeasurable joy, one of the chapters of my upcoming book release. And then, so we've got so many comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you, Miss Jones. Thank you so much. We've got so many people tuning in tonight. Blessings in the streets. I just can't say enough. This is a very good read. Blessings in the Streets, special edition, when God leverages our valley experiences. Valley means low experiences, but he leverages them. He makes the impossible possible.
Yep.
And there are so many blessings and stories. I'm telling you, you will laugh. You will crack up laughing when you are reading this book. So make sure you get your copy. Again, ebook, paperback, and hard copy. Okay, available today. Woo-hoo! So we have definitely been working hard on this project. We worked with about right at 6 months, right, Joseph?
Yeah, I think pretty close to 6 months.
Right about
just
6
maybe
months.
just under. Yeah.
Yeah, right about 6 months. And Joseph did this book. I, I mean, he did this book. I was gonna say did it the greatest service. I don't even know if that makes sense, but the point of what you start making up words, but I'm keeping it real. But he just did an amazing job on the book, and you definitely want to read it. It will make a great Valentine's gift. Just any type of event that you have coming up, it will be a blessing. Miss Di Jones, she said, "I love you too. Thanks for being obedient." Thank you, Miss Jones. I love you too, and congratulations, she said, for you, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you
Um,
so much.
so we have talked about the podcast, which I am so excited. I did a little something extra tonight. I'm I'm gonna be on Mr. Joseph's podcast tonight, so we're doing a double take. He's interviewing here on the Stephanie M. Seaton Sunday Show, and I will be doing an interview afterwards on Blessings in the Street, and so we will be filming that, and it will be featured on his season 3. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. Tell us a little bit about the first book compared to the second book. Do we want to release? I mean, let me ask you first. Do we want to kind of tell the things that are inclusive, or do we not? Should we just leave it to their
Well,
imaginations?
I can share a few things about it without
Okay,
giving away everything.
okay, okay.
I think, well, first off, of course, content wise, that's one of the first things that is a difference maker. In the
Yes,
original book, there are 12 chapters.
yeah.
In the current book,
Hmm.
special edition version, there are 13 chapters. So we have a bonus chapter, and that
Yeah.
bonus chapter is actually the longest chapter
Hmm.
in the book.
Hmm.
So you're getting a whole host of new stories,
Yeah.
and that bonus chapter shifts the story a little bit more towards me, where you hear more about my personal journey, my personal walk, with Christ, as that what that build up looked like for me to get to the point that I'm at now, and I don't say it in a way that to suggest that I've already arrived. I have not,
Right. No, I
but
get.
it shows you the growth pattern with a little bit more a little bit more slanted to some of my direct personal experiences, because the original book was intended to be with my mother being the main character and me being more of the supporting character. So you have the content difference. Obviously, the design of the book clearly is a complete flip in terms of look. As I shared earlier, for those who haven't seen the original book, this is
Yeah.
what the original looks like, and then of
Yeah.
course, compared to what we have now,
Listen.
definitely,
let,
definitely
let me
complete.
let me step in here for a minute. Let me tell you, my friend Mr. Joseph, he done did a 20-time upgrade. Listen, he went in, he went and done a whole photo shoot to match his book. Listen, my friend did that thing. So listen, y'all better go out and get this book. I said, Joseph, we need some pictures. We're gonna need some nice up-to-date pictures. He done went out and took a photo shoot. He done color coordinated his outfits with his book.
But you know
Listen,
what? Well, check
he
that
did.
out.
You did
What,
that branding, Joseph.
what just even to the photo shoot, what was interesting about that is
Uh-huh.
I actually did not plan to quote unquote coordinate with the book. When the
You didn't?
pictures came, no, I didn't.
I
I
didn't
knew
know.
I knew what suits I was gonna wear that day and some color
Yeah,
combinations, but I didn't make the connection. And then when the pictures came out,
yeah.
from the way it looked when I took the pictures and what the ultimate final product was, it matched the way that it did, and I was just like,
Okay.
but again, but that's this that would be a perfect example of a blessings in the street moment. I went to
Okay.
take pictures to like you said, to get some updated shots because I hadn't had any updated pictures in a while, not
Yeah.
knowing that the final version of the design of the book would line up with the actual look, some of the looks that I had to choose from. So it blended perfectly. So yeah, we got a
Yeah.
content difference, we got a complete style difference. I've completely rebranded because I wanted to just initiate a whole new freshness to it all. And I think, for those who have had the pleasure of purchasing the first book, and even if
Yeah.
you haven't, what's cool about this, unlike I think others, works where you have an original and a special edition version, is that
Yeah,
the way that the stories are told, for even for the stories that are repeat stories from one book to the next, the stories don't read the same. So
that's
in other words, you're going to get you may read a story in the original book that when you read it in the special edition version, it's the same story, but there might be some details that were shared
that's right.
in that
Mhm.
version that weren't shared in the original, and vice versa. And
Yeah.
so it's almost like you have to read them both if you want
Mhm.
to fully capture the essence of every
Yeah.
single thing. So it was kind of like rewriting it all over again, but
Revamp,
adding that extra.
relaunch.
That extra is to think about, just like with music, like a remix. You,
Yes,
you hear a
it
song one
ooh, that's
way,
a good
and
one, a
and and, uh,
remix.
and, then, and you get a good remix song.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, then that remix song is different enough where you can tell the difference between
yeah,
it and the original,
yeah.
but you
I
but you
think that's
still like
good.
both. You
I
still
I
like both.
like that.
Yeah. So it's
I
it's a
like how you
remix.
describe that.
Yeah.
Remix,
Yeah,
Joseph, a
yeah,
remix.
just think of it
Uh,
like that. The special edition
mhm,
is a remix.
yeah,
And then there's even a few little extra snippets in between, points of reflection, things of that nature that were not in the original book.
mhm,
And I attest that to, to Stephanie's creativity in making that suggestion to add that in there, because what I wanted to do in the special edition book was to really bring the stories home to you in a way to where it wasn't just words on paper.
right.
Wanted you to feel like you were there.
Yeah,
I wanted you. Yeah, I think any good writing, and I even say this even in my work setting. When we talk about documenting work, you want to document in a way that when the reader sees it, when they're reading those words on the paper, make them feel like they were actually present with you in that moment to experience it. So there was a lot of emphasis put on trying to create that very type of environment, if you will,
yeah,
without fluffing it, without
yeah,
fabricating. Because I've seen people try to do the same
yeah,
thing
mhm,
and fall short on that, because now
right,
they've made it too over the top. You
yeah,
still wanted it to be relatable. You still wanted it to feel natural. We weren't just trying to put in words
no,
just to make it sound fluffy and
no,
and all of that. It was no, it was still keeping it real, but
yeah,
bringing in that environment, bringing in the setting, so you could feel
yeah,
it, you could experience it, you
yeah,
if there was if I'm mentioning a smell, you could smell it as if you
mhm,
were there. If I'm
yeah.
mentioning a sound, you could hear it as if you were there.
Yeah,
So
and I will attest to that, Joseph. There were times when you were talking about several different things, even when you were mentioning the pets, the dogs,
mhm.
Gemini. I literally was sitting there like picturing the dogs doing things, and so I mean, it was very entertaining, enlightening. The questions that are at the end that make you apply it to self and really think and dig deep, the reflection, so many amazing things. Let me go ahead and answer the question she asked if you're on Kindle. So his book is published on all major platforms: Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, every major platform. If you Google his book, it will come up again in ebook, paperback, and hardcover. With Amazon, with Kindle, you can also do the audio if you are interested in that. So yes, it is on Kindle, and she wants to know what time your Blessings in the Street podcast comes on, Joseph. What time is your Blessing in the Street podcast?
Typically my episodes, I do 3 episodes a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays, new episodes air effective at midnight Central Standard Time, and then I do Saturday night prime times, which are 7 p.m. Central Time. So all of my episodes are pre-recorded. And so that's just like this, for the example, this evening when Stephanie's on my show, that's going to be a pre-recorded episode, but it'll be on a part of my season 3 lineup. So I post on social media when those episodes are available. So if you're connecting me friends wise, or if you're connected friends wise with the guests that I have on the show,
That's right.
you'll be able to see their posts as well, and you can see when those episodes appear. And obviously, of course, too, another surefire way that you don't miss, of course, is if you subscribe to the YouTube channel.
That's right.
You can set it up where you can get your alerts to let you know every time a brand new episode pops up. And just as Stephanie said with the book, my podcast, that's one of the things that I've done with the podcast this go around, is I've now have it expanded out on all the different various platforms. So yes, while YouTube is my main platform in terms of so you can see the video portion of it. For those of you who don't have the time or the capability in a particular moment in time to actually visually look at it, you can check it out on other platforms. So your Apples, your Spotify's, and all of those other ones. So definitely check it out. And like I said, I got plenty of binge watch material on that. So, you got plenty, just with the first 2 seasons alone, but the season 3 kicks off on February 1st. And again, got an exciting lineup of people with that. But yeah, with the book, like I said, it's, with, as Stephanie made reference to, I have discussion questions in the book. That wasn't a part of the first book. So it gives you an opportunity to have some moments of reflection, whether you want to do that individually or if you want to, and I've had this even with my original book, there were people who, I've been, had an opportunity to partake in groups where, they treated it sort of like a book club moment, and so now you have questions, so you can do individual and or group reflections in regards to that. So a lot of little cool features. I like I said, Stephanie I was trying to pack in as much as I could because I really wanted to give people a full experience.
You did. You did.
I really did. I really wanted to give a full experience. I didn't just want you to just read the book and then when you got to the end, you put it down and say, okay, that was cool. I wanted there to be other things that you could build off of and connect with moving forward. That would take you beyond the words on the pages. And so, I'm prayerful that I was able to accomplish that and that it'll be, received as these are good things to have for people that you might not traditionally see in your average book, because that's another thing about me. I like to be different, so I wanted to give an experience, in the reading that and that's the ideal word for me to say. I wanted it to be an experience for you and not just reading the book.
Yeah, you definitely accomplished that, and I mean that and that's why I said I have to be careful not to say like your book was better than everybody's book I've ever published, because I have a lot of clients and I definitely wouldn't want to offend anyone. But when I say that your book took things to a whole nother level, meaning you thought of so many different avenues and details, it's more than just a book. It's an experience. I would say that. I would say that it's an experience because you not only have the content of the story, but then you have the questions, the reflections, the pictures where, people are going to be looking at those pictures. They're going to be smiling, just, laughing, because you're going to be able to really, when I saw the pictures, I was able to pinpoint who was who. You know what I'm saying? I was able to look at the pictures and be like, oh, so that's what he looked like. So that's what she looked like. And you've already read the stories about them. And so, those were definitely some great add-ins. Now, as we get ready to come to a close, I want to say, Joseph, thank you so much for coming back on tonight, giving me the opportunity to, interview you, and your first interview, on podcast, because I know you have another interview that is out in a magazine right now.
Yes.
And they did an amazing job. I had a chance to take a look at that. And so you want to mention the name of that magazine ad?
Yes. Let me pull this up real quick. That was really, another one of those blessing in the street moments. I didn't see this coming. I didn't know it was on. A gentleman who did the article on me reached out to me. His name is Andre Johnson. I'm gonna give a shout out to him. He reached out to me and and said, hey, I'd like to do a story on you as an author. And he knew that I had a book coming out, and I don't think he even realized the exact date of it. And so the timing of it and everything was just absolutely perfect. So, his, like I said, his name is Andre Johnson, and he is with, what's it called? I'm sorry. I drew a blank. I'm sorry. Making Headline News. I'm sorry. Making Headline News is the publishing business that he's with, and he does a phenomenal job of
really nice
of not only putting your story together, but getting you out on platforms in front of people that you wouldn't necessarily be able to reach. So I mean, you're talking about several hundred thousands of people that will get a chance to read your story, and and even with that, it was confirmation, because I saw a couple of people that he had worked with that I just happened to know. And
Okay.
and I reached out to them and asked them what their experience was like, and then they all said it was positive things about it, and
Yeah.
that it was a really a good setup. So this was my first magazine
Spread.
article spread, if you will,
Yeah.
and so that was pretty cool to be able to do that. And there's actually going to be a follow-up article that he's going to be doing as well. So that actually should be coming out later this week. That'll
Mhm.
focus specifically more like on the podcast and just my
Mhm.
business aspect as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll share that, of course, across social media lines. So it's been an awesome experience, and I thank you again, Stephanie, for not only having me on tonight, but just your role in just helping me put the vision together for the special edition. Because even just to the listeners, Stephanie was, a blessing in this regard, not just from the work that she did, but just for her coming up with the idea to motivate me to say, no, we need to, we need to bring this thing back out and make it and make it really pop, in a whole different level, raise the game on this. And and I followed her lead and with God, God and this, pulling the strings up behind the scenes, we made it happen. And here we are, the official release date, and
Woo, woo,
thrilled
woo,
with the work and the product, and it's just been
Yeah.
a blessing. And again,
Hold it up again, Joseph. Hold it up again.
I just pray that it's a blessing to all of those who have the opportunity
Yeah.
to get their own copy. And
Yes. Yes.
it's an easy read. It's a it's a thick book, but it's an easy read. So and that was the same way with my original. That was
Yeah.
one of the comments about people who had the book. It's one of those books that once you get rolling with it, it's going to be hard to stop reading it.
Yeah. It's
So
hard to stop.
you're
Yeah.
going to kind of
I
get on
agree
that
with that.
roll where you're not going to want to stop because
Yeah.
you want to,
You're
okay,
gonna
damn,
want
now
to
what
know.
happens next? What happens
Yes.
next? What
That's
happens
what I
next?
was gonna say. Yeah. You're gonna want to know what did they do next?
Yeah.
Like
So it's not
what's about to happen?
right. It's not one of those books that you read because you can't go to sleep and you're trying to fall asleep. It's one of the ones that you're probably gonna stay up later than you meant to because
Yeah.
you don't want to stop reading it.
Can't stop reading.
And that
Yeah.
was intentional. It was intentional
Yeah.
to keep your attention as
Yeah.
you were going through the reading of it. So again, I
Yeah.
pray that you be blessed in the reading of that. And again, I thank you, Stephanie, for everything that you've done, being a
You're
part
welcome.
of this journey and just the whole process is not just been a business transaction. I got a friend out of this. So so that makes it even that much more of a bonus.
Thank
So
you, Joseph. I
yeah.
appreciate you. And that's what it's about, collaboration and just helping each other along the way.
Mhm.
That's what it's about. Miss Anita has jumped on the scene. She said, Miss Minister Author Stephanie M. Seaton does her thing with publishing.
Yes.
She is one of my clients and friends as well. I think pretty much just about everybody I have published, it has been just amazing, the process, and being able to see those books. And, my thing is the power of your story, being able to see people's stories come to life. It really excites me to be able to see you guys smile when you see your book cover, or smile when your book is finished. And it's just an exciting thing. I take it back and I remember, the first time that I saw my first book published, and I try to live through everybody. You know what I'm saying? I take it on and try to live through it. So listen, tell them, Joseph, how can they get in touch with you? What is your contact information?
I'm on various social media platforms. You catch me on Facebook, Joseph B. Roberts. You catch me on Instagram at Mr. Joseph B. Roberts. Catch me on TikTok. And I actually have a digital card. If you go to Mr. Joseph B. Roberts card.com, it will take you to my digital card, and it'll give you not only information about the book, but about my podcast, upcoming events that I have. It'll tell you everything that you want to know that I'm involved in or doing or what have you. It's a one-stop shop. So that's Mr. Joseph B. Roberts card.com. If you go to that, you don't need the www. You don't have to do that. Just Mr. Joseph B. Roberts card.com. And
Yeah.
it'll give you everything that you need to know about me. You can save it to your phones. So you have one-stop access to, and what's going on in real time with my works and what's going on with me. So I look forward to connecting with you in any way and being of service to you in any way that I can be.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to give a shout out to Marcus Session. Another one of my clients just chimed in, and Miss Anita. Thank you guys so much for chiming in tonight. This has been another amazing episode of the Stephanie M. Seaton Sunday Show, where we have been talking to author, podcast host, Mr. Joseph B. Roberts. You must go out and get his book. It is available on all major platforms, ebook, paperback, as well as hard cover, as well as hardcover. Don't do it. Don't laugh at me. You've got to go out and get the book. Let me show you the cover one more time. Blessings in the Streets, special edition. Joseph B. Roberts. When God leverages our valley experience. Listen, we have to go through the processes, but with Christ, all things are possible. So make sure that you like, tag, and share this interview on tonight. I know this is going to be a blessing to somebody, okay? Thank you guys for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Stephanie M. Seaton Sunday Show. Thank you again, Joseph, for coming onto the platform, okay? You stay tuned, okay? Thank you so much. Have a good night.
If you would like to be a guest on the Stephanie M. Seaton Sunday Show, email Stephanie at stephanieMseatontheauthor@gmail.com.